of course, we have some updates from the Ultime fleet, which are battling kind of a trough in the weather, so not much wind for them. And the weather window I talked about yesterday is actually looking more and more likely like that might actually happen. So that and more in the show today. But before we get started, of course, I hope that you, just like me, have some fresh deliciousness in your cup over there. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh. That just hits the spot like nothing else, right? So, let's start with a little weather update because... Hello, Sea Wolves! Whoa, just wanted to show you, so the storm is raging around here in Amsterdam. Whoa, pretty good as well. The whole marina, all the boats, like you can see behind me, they're bouncing around. Of course, we're making sure that everything is tied down pretty well. But yeah, definitely a good choice not to go sailing in this super extreme weather here. I mean, look at how the boats are just bouncing around everywhere. We have gusts to up to about 70 knots around here also, so I got to be a bit careful. Whoa, walking around here also. But well, not great weather for sailing, but we can definitely do a nice update because well, we have a lot happening in the Ultime class today, like we kind of predicted yesterday. Starting day is still in view, so let's get to the update. Woo! So we're safely inside now, happy to be inside, and I have to say I'm very happy also to be here to make sure that like everything stays alright. Sometimes with big storms we have lines breaking here, boats getting damaged, so it's always nice to be around to kind of make sure that everything is okay. But before we get into the actual report, I hope that you have something delicious in your cup right there. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Cheers! Oh, that's just amazing, isn't it? Now we'll talk actually a little bit about Charal in a minute here, but first let's get into the update on the Ultime class, because we talked yesterday about possible lead changes, and that is actually what happened today. So if you jump here into my screen, we see that the Ultimes are kind of around the Canary Islands right now. Oh, gotta get the zoom under control here. And we can see that right now in the lead we have Maxi Banque Populaire, in second place Edmund de Rothschild, and in third place SVR Les Artigues, which you know, we were just on board in that fantastic intro there. And of course Les Artigues has been in the lead so far, and if we look back we see that more or less exactly what I talked about. So we had this problem kind of with Madeira creating a big wind shadow, and we see that kind of part of the group had you know, kind of chose to go over Madeira to kind of stay in the wind, where basically Les Artigues and the Rothschild chose to kind of, well, they did kind of go around, so you can kind of see a little bit this rounding here, that they kind of you know, made a bit of a turn to stay as far away from Madeira as possible, to kind of keep in the open sea, to keep in the wind and to stay out of the wind shadow of Madeira. But we see that ultimately it still costs SVR Les Arctiques the first place, and the choice by Banque Populaire to kind of go on the windward side of Porto Santo paid off, and they're now in first place. And we see also that both actual Ultime 3 and Sodibu really capitalized on this particular, you know, they were kind of like more far out on the open seas, like more further away from that wind shadow of Madeira. And we see that they also both really caught up, especially taking into account that, of course, the actual place where they're trying to go, this Sao Pedro e Sao Paulo buoy, and then onto Ascension, that, you know, basically their kind of optimum course, you know, lies more or less here. And so at some point they're going to have to do a jibe, and I think that at that point both of the two boats that are still in the end can actually be maybe again in a very favorable position. So a lot going on there, the whole field tightening much more. It's now very, very close together. They're about you know, like yeah, within basically 100 nautical miles of each other, kind of sideways, so very, very close, and about 20 miles like distance from the actual next buoy. So it's like a really, really close race at this moment, and the speeds are all pretty comfortable. They're all doing something like 5-6 knots, kind of looking for those trade winds. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But basically, if we look at the weather, so they're right now kind of to the side of the Canary Islands. If we move to windy here and to today, so we kind of have the Canary Islands kind of here, so that's kind of the location where they're sailing right now. We can see that actually for the next few days, as their course is going to be, you know, well, something around there, that the whole line is going to actually have excellent wind, and if they manage to sail quite nicely to the west, then actually the doldrums, so that's kind of the area here where off of Africa we always have like very low wind, usually that kind of extends all the way to the other side, and we do see some kind of like troughs with no wind around here. But right now it seems that the doldrums very much not active. And so even if we go well up to Monday, Tuesday, we can basically see that that whole area is staying pretty good with wind. So if they pick their place right and kind of manage to avoid you know, the various kind of troughs here, so we definitely see some lines where there's going to be some less wind, but if they're able to kind of pick a good spot and maneuver through, I think actually that all of the Ultime fleet is going to be able to sail right through the doldrums with a nice, you know, 5 to 10 knots of wind. So for the doldrums, that's actually really great. And be able to kind of sail through, breeze through really, really easily. So that should be very interesting to see if the fleet actually stays together that way, or if some of them accidentally still get caught in a trough. That could be really disastrous. Who knows? We'll see. But as far as weather predictions, it seems that they've got an excellent window to make it to the doldrums right now. So that's kind of the analysis as far as weather and predictions goes for the Ultime 3. No major damages or anything like that, so that's also very good. So let's move to the possible weather window on the Imocas and the rest of the fleet, because if we go, well, let's go to the weather again and to the current situation. So we have kind of, you know, where everything is going on here, you know, oh, sorry, pardon me, otherwise people in the comments are going to say, Flo, you put it in the wrong location. How? So everything is kind of going on in here, right now. That's where we're kind of looking to leave. And well, we can see that the storm right now is kind of hitting the French coast. So this is tomorrow afternoon. That's kind of when it's going to slowly die. But then we have immediately this next system moving in through Saturday. But then kind of beginning of Sunday, we see things getting considerably less. You know, still pretty severe weather, but not in the kind of the category that's raging outside right now. And then on Monday, where supposedly we may have a window, it still looks pretty good. You know, strong weather still coming in a bit from the north, but doable for the Imoca fleet, and especially if you consider Tuesday, looks pretty good. Strong headwinds, but that's something the Imocas can handle. And then by Wednesday afternoon to Thursday, we still get some strong weather again. But I think not too strong, considering that the sea state will hopefully come down a little bit. So I think so far, fortunately, I don't have to make these decisions. But Monday, Sunday evening late, something like that, still to me looks like a possibility. So again, we don't know. fingers crossed, let's hope they can make it out of there and we can actually have the race start proper. And yeah, so that's kind of it for the Ocean 50, Class 40 and Imoca class update. And yeah, so it's an extra little bonus. Of course, you saw Charal there in our toast, and I thought it would be nice to kind of you know, talk about boats every once in a while when we don't have so much racing to go on. And of course, Charal is interesting because as one of the newer Imocas launched at the beginning of this season, it has a few really cool features, some highly controversial features, and the one of them that I kind of wanted to talk about today, which is kind of interesting for those of you who do not already know. So Lewis Burton almost 2 years ago, they did a test with it. They kind of had a spare rudder and they decided to put a little foil on that spare rudder, which basically was able to lift the whole boat out of the water, and they got some amazing speed advantages. Now, because of stability and safety, a rule was it was decided that that was breaking the rules, because it's not allowed to put foils on the rudder in the Imoca class. So he couldn't. So Lewis couldn't use that, and none of the other boats have. But those clever bastards at the Charal team came up with a way to design kind of to position their rudder to do something not quite a foil, but to be able to also lift the kind of the aft end of the boat out of the water in a similar fashion by providing some back pressure, by having two kind of in a V shape, rudders kind of in a V shape. And so if you bring those together, of course, it sort of breaks and raises, and they've been able to kind of reach a similar effect with that, and it has deemed that this is actually possible. So it's kind of a clever way to work around the rules and create something like a really cool effect, where we see Charal really kind of foiling, of course, won the route drum, so very big advantage. And also very cool that they really made a very big effort, if you look at the boom here, to completely close the gap between the cockpit and the boom, because of course the sails of course work with dividing pressure, so you have low pressure and high pressure on either side of the sail. You know, that's what creates kind of the lift, similar to what an airplane wing does. And the more those two are separated, the more power they generate. So the better you can separate kind of the high pressure area and the low pressure area, the sharper the divide between those two, the more power you can generate. And by creating this very kind of tight sealing barrier between the cockpit and the main sail, that theoretically provides the most sharpest contrast between that high pressure and low pressure zone, creating maximum power on the head sail. So two major advantages of this boat. I'm sure there are many other like small details, and I'm sure that during the race we'll do some more in-depth analysis of some of the boats as we used to do before. But I thought these were two really cool elements to point out, and it's also two of the reasons why I think that the new Charal, so Charal 2 and of course Jeremy Bijou, are one of the absolute favorites to win this race, but also to win the Vendée Globe 2024. So yeah, just some small insights on one of the super cool Imocas in the fleet right now. If you're more curious on that, I'll put some links below again for some videos about Charal, where you can check out all this really cool innovations. And yeah, I guess with that, again, with not so much racing going on, that's it for the report for today. Hope you enjoyed, and see you tomorrow. Ciao, ciao!